Hello Internet, this is Alex does Sudokus and it is Saturday the 3rd of October 2020 and we have another medium New York Times Sudoku for you today and I thought I'll do a normal medium puzzle today by using what's called the Snyder notations and just slowly go through the puzzle and see how we get on. So under Snyder notation, we try to only pencil mark in two candidates at a time within any cage that we're given, and it has a tendency of being enough to help us solve the medium puzzles. So why don't we have a look and demonstrate by example? So first of all, I'm going to go through the numbers from 1 to 9. So I'm going to stay on the ones at the moment, and I'm just scanning the rows and the columns on every single one to see how they interact with any of the cages. So cages are a box of 9 cells basically, but I don't know, people may technically every single cell is a a box. So I'm just trying to use terminologies that are quite distinct. So cages are basically a grid of 9 cells, and a cell is one of the smallest boxes, basically. So, and I can't see anything developing with the ones, unfortunately. So, for instance, we have 4 possible positions for the 1 in this cage, and that's more than 2 candidates. So we're going to leave that alone, and the best we can do is in this cage there we've got 3 possible candidates, and in here I've got another 3 candidates because these 2 cages are where the ones overlap. But with Snyder notations we try not to pencil mark them in, especially when they're in a bend position. So let's move on to 2s and see if we can do anything. So we've got these 2s. So these 2s block out these 4 cells, therefore the 2s have to be in these 2 cells. So we have 2 candidates and we are going to pencil mark them in, and let's try and see if the 2s interact. Well, this 2 also interacts on its own with this cage, locking 2 possible candidates there, so that's useful. What about this 2? It doesn't do anything on its own, and even with the 2 up here, it leaves 4 possible candidates, and there's 6 possible candidates down here, so that's not very useful. So now let's look at this 2 and see if it does anything on its own. It doesn't. So we finish pencil marking in what we can with the 2s now. So let's move on to 3s. So 3s, well, we've got these 2 3s seeing into those cells. I mean, we have a 3 here as well, but it overlaps with the cells that we've already taken out. But either way, it leaves us a pair of 3s over here. So we are going to pencil mark them in. And now that we've done what we can with these 2 3s, we're going to have a look at them on their own. And then we're going to look at how they interact with the third 3 over here. So we can see this 3 and that 3 overlaps as such that leaves us 2 pencil markings in this, 2 candidates in this cage. And this 3 and that 3 overlaps, leaving another pair of 3s down here. So we could move on to the 4s, but there's actually something developing here. You'll notice that the 3s are lined up in the same column within this cage. This is what we call a pointed pair. And a pointed pair is basically when 2 numbers are lined up and they point in a direction. That's how I understand it. And they basically point up, seeing this little pencil marking 3. So normally when I look at numbers, I'm looking at pencil markings or blank cells. In this case, I'm seeing a pencil marking of 3 here. So why is that important? Why does seeing that 3 seem important? Well, if we look at this cage, the 3s can only go in one of these 2 positions. And if that's the case, then the 3 can either go in here or here. Then this column, we already know where in this column the 3 goes. It has to be one of these 2 cells. So the 3 has to be in these 2 cells within this column. Then none of the other cells can contain the 3. So that's the logic behind it. But what we do if it's this, in practice, when we see a pointed pair, I basically just draw a line in the direction that the pointed pair looks in, and then erase any pencil markings. Or I will also look at, let's say I didn't have the pencil markings up here. Well, I've got another 3 on one of the two cages. So I will use them to basically rule out these cells. And I so happen to interact with a third free that overlaps this cell. So that would have given me a free up here as well. So that's how we use the pointer pairs basically. So hopefully you find it useful. So now the new free is worth investigating. It came from this direction, so it's not going to have any more interactions basically, but horizontally it interacts with that free, locking another pair of frees over there, and that is useful for us. So I think that's all the threes that we can pencil mark in. So why don't we look at the fours? So immediately I noticed these two fours lock out these 4 cells, and now I've got a 4 over here ruling out this cell as well. So the 4s are locked down in these 2 positions in this cage, so we can pencil mark them in. And so let's have a quick look and see if the 4s do anything on their own, or what they do with that 4 over there. And in both instances they leave more than 2 candidates, so we can't do anything with that. And now we look at this 4 on its own. Sorry, I had to blow my nose. It's a kind of mainstay of this channel. It's my unique selling point that I tend to blow my nose when I do these puzzles, because it seems that I always get the snifflies when I wake up in the morning. Anyway, so 4s can be in these 4 cells, so that's not useful for us. So we're going to move on to 5s. It seems like we have every single number since the number 2. We have like 3 confirmed numbers to work with. So I don't know if that means anything, but anyway, these 2 5s and that 5 rules out all of these cells. So that leaves me a pair of 5s. Does that help me at all? So this 5 locks the 5 in those 4 cells, so that's not useful at all. But can it interact with these 5s in any interesting ways? That leaves me 3 possible candidates, and the 5s on their own don't do anything, so that's the only pencil markings that we can put down with this 5, with the 5s. So let's have a look at 6s. Well, 6s, we only have 2 numbers, so first of all I'm going to look at them on their own and see if they do anything, and then I'm going to look at how they overlap in these 2 cages. So they overlap in these cells, leaving me 3 possible candidates. That's not useful. And they overlap in this cage, leaving me 3 candidates. So that's not useful at all. So, but what I am bearing in mind now, since I'm doing this slowly, is that the 1s and the 6s both come in a pair, so they may be useful later. So let's have a look at 7s. Oh, 7 also comes in a pair. So let's see, do they do anything on their own? No, they don't, and they also leave me 3 possible candidates, so again, that's not useful. So let's move on to 8. So 8 is interesting in that we've got 3 of them, but they're not lined up in any way. They're in different cages vertically and horizontally. So that's actually quite useful, because it means there's kind of like an interaction of 8 in every single cage, basically, because wherever I go, I will have 2 8s looking into the cage, so that may be useful. So let's have a look. So first of all, this 8, I already noticed these 2 cells are ruled out because of these 2 8s. So I do have a pair of 8s in this cage. So let's stick to this 8 for a second. Well, that 8 rules out these 3 cells, and that 8 rules out that cell. So that forces an 8 in here. So I only have 1 candidate, so I can actually put in the confirmed number. But before I do, when I put in the 8, I'm going to overwrite the 2. So just remember that. So what that means is the way Snyder notation works, one of the main benefits is how easy it is to deduce where to know that there's a number available, because we only have a pencil mark in cages where there are 2 possible candidates. So that means if we erase one of them, the other must be the final location for a candidate. So now that we've erased one of the 2 possible locations for the 2 in this cage, the other must be true. So let's place the 2 in for a second and look at what the 2 does now. So let's see if it does anything new. So for instance, it interacts with that 2 overwriting these 3 cells, and I've got another 2 here. So that actually locks in a pair of 2s up there. And it looks over in these directions, but they don't leave me anything at all. So that's all I can do with the 2. So let's go back to the 8s now and see if this 8 has opened up anything else for us. Well, these 2 8s locks a pair of 8s over there, and these 2 8s along with that 8 locks a pair of 8s over here. So it does do something, so that's useful. So now let's look at the rest of the cages. I've got 8 overlapping in this way, so I've got 3 candidates, so that's not useful. What about this cage? I'm left with 3 possible candidates for the 8s because only these cells are ruled out, so that's all I can do with the 8s. Let's move on to 9s. So 9s, I've got three 9s, but 2 of them are occupying the same role in terms of cages anyway. So well, I do have a pair of 9s over here because this 9 and that 9, I mean, we don't even need this 9 because that cell is already overlapping with this 9. So the 9s have to go there. So I'm going to look at these 2 cells in a second, but let's see if there's any other pencil markings that we can do. So this 9 also overlaps with that 9, locking a pair of 9s over here. So now these 2 9s point up. They're pointed pair of 9s, so they ruled out any of these cells. So basically, up top, these cells are all ruled out by the 9 and the pointed pair of 9s. That leaves me 3 possible positions, so that's not useful. What about over here? Well, these 2 9s overlap, ruling out these cells, so we've only got 2 candidates left, and we're going to pencil mark them in. And let's see, do we have anything else? No, that's all we can do with the 9s. So now I'm going to look at these 2 cells. They're called a matching pair. It's a 5-9 pair. And the matching pair basically means in this cage, I've already confirmed that the 5 and 9 can only go in these. They share the same 2 positions basically. That means if one of them is a 5, then the other has to be a 9. And if the other one is a 5, then this one has to be a 9. So basically, 5 and 9s are locked in these 2 cells. It means there are no other possible candidates in these 2 cells, because if they are, I'll be left with a situation where I can't resolve one of the numbers, basically. And the other thing it does is it quickly, I mean, by normal rules, you already have a pointed pair of 5s and 9s in those two rows. Additionally, within the cage, the 5 and 9s can't go anywhere else, but that's kind of implied by the fact that, well, these are the only possible places for the 5, and these are the only possible places for the 9. But it's just useful to know that they expand, as a quick visual aid, that they expand, ruling out the 5 and 9s in the rows, in the cage, but also no other numbers can go in there. And usually that's quite useful because, as an example, if you look at the 1s in this cage now, well, a 1 rules out these 3 cells, but the 1 can't go in these 2 cells either because they have to be 5 or 9s. That means I now have a pair of 1s over here. So that's an example of how you can use that. So now this pointed pair of 1s moves over there in this cage and locks another pair of 1s there. So suddenly this single matching pair has helped me resolve some more pencil markings. So do we have anything else? Not with 1s anyway. So what about other numbers in this cage? So we are looking for 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 doesn't do anything. 5, 6. 6 are locked in these cells. 7, there are no 7 seeing into this cage, so that's all I can do with the 5-9 pair, at least within the cage anyway. Another thing we can do is, well, we can look at these 4 cells. Normally I prefer to look at empty cells on a row across cages, across multiple cages. We've got 4 cells running across 3 different cages. And the reason I'm looking at these 4 is because, again, remember, no other numbers can go in these 5 and 9. So we can basically rule them out. We can assume that 5 and 9 are in one of these 2 cages. So we know 2, 6, 5, 9, and 8 are already located on this row. So we only have 1, 3, 4, and 7 left on this row. So 1, 3, 7, and 4. I don't think I can see any kind of like unique remaining digits, but I can see a 1 and 3 here, so I know this is a 4 and 7. But I'm not going to pencil mark them in because remember we're trying to pencil mark in things where there are only 2 candidates within a cage, for the time being anyway. So I need to blow my nose again. It's just, for some reason, feeling really itchy. So sorry about that. But I do feel a little bit less bunged up now. So we've basically done a round of pencil markings in from the numbers 1 to 9. So we can do another round because we've put 3 numbers in during that round, and that means the board in itself has changed a little bit, and there are potentially more numbers that we can place now, but that's not super useful for us at the moment. No, I'm losing my train of thoughts actually. But what we can do is also look at other potential interesting areas to look at basically on the grid. And what I normally look at is other weak areas. So weak areas are basically any areas that we're only left with 2 or 3 cells left within either a row or column or a cage. So particularly in this cage only have 3 positions left. There are only 3 candidates left. 3 cells left, 3 candidates. So, well, we can actually deduce that 4s are in here because of that 4. But also, we are missing a 5 in this cage. So, let's pencil mark them in for now. I know I'm breaking the rule a little bit by pencil marking 3 possible 5s. But personally, I'm quite comfortable pencil marking 3 numbers when I've only got 3 candidates left within a cage. So I've only got 3 cells left in a cage. So in those cases, that forms what I call a triple. And the triples are useful because they, not useful, but basically they're okay for pencil marking in because I think one of the main features of Snyder notation is to kind of make it easy to see what's going on. So you're not pencil marking the board too much and making it harder to find the kind of relevant pencil markings, basically. But when it comes down to triples, well, you've only got 3 cells left, so and 3 numbers left. So the most you're going to pencil mark in within a cage is 3 numbers in any cell. So this is the number that's the most cluttered right now, and it's still quite legible because the cage is quite. It's not super dense with full of numbers. It's not something crazy like this. So it's still useful to just put them in. And in this instance, it's super useful as well because the 3 remaining cells within this cage are lined up. So whilst we have things like a pointed pair of 4s, well here we have a pointed triple. Well, we've got a pointed pair of 3s, pointed pair of 4s, but also a pointed triple of 5s. So the same rule applies. 5 has to be in one of these 3 cells in this column, so it can't be anywhere else. So now the 5s sees into this 5 pencil marking up here, ruling it out. And remember what we said about the pairs. Any matching pairs, if one goes in one cell, so the 5 has to go in here, it automatically means the other number has to go in the other cell, so 9 has to go there. So suddenly we've resolved the 5 and the 9 by looking at this weak area within the cage. So with that, let's see if the board has changed at all. So does this 5 do anything else for us? It doesn't, because I've already got all the 5s in those cages, and I've already got 5 up there. I can't resolve this 5 yet. So what about the 9? The 9 sees into this cage along with that 9, so that still leaves me a point, 3 possible locations for 9. So I'm not going to pencil mark them in because even though they're lined up, I still have 6 cells left in this cage, so I don't want to clutter it with 9s right now. So the 5 and 9 doesn't actually resolve anything for us. But does it open any other doors for us? Well, technically, we have another triple here, which is a weak area. So again, when we had the 5 and 9s, we ruled out 5 and 9s but also other numbers from these cells, so we know we can just look at the rest of the cells. We've got the same situation here. I know that 3, 4, and 5s have to be in these 3 cells, so there's no point in looking at those 3 cells anymore. No other numbers can go in there, so I can focus on the remaining cells. So if those are 3, 4s, and 5s, the numbers I'm looking for are 1, 6, and 7. 1, 6, and 7. So I'm just going to have a look horizontally and within the cages. Do I have 1s, 6, and 7? I've got 1 there, but I have no 6 or 7, so I can't actually resolve this just yet. So there are no developments there, so let's move on then. And I think that's all the weak areas that we can attack. So on this row, I just want to kind of explain a little extra about the triples for anyone new. Whilst I know this 3 and 5 pair, 3, 5 candidates are part of a triple here, it's only relevant kind of vertically in the directions that they lined up in. So horizontally, I haven't ruled out 3s and 5s outside of this cell because I've only got a single 3 and 5 in a cell, horizontally speaking. If I have another 3, 5 pair, then yes, we would have developed a pair, but in this instance, you know, there could be anything else, basically. They could be anywhere else. And also, whilst other numbers can't go in here, 3s and 5s can go in other numbers, so it's not super useful. It's not like we suddenly know just because basically 3s and 5s can still go in the rest of the cells, so I haven't actually ruled out this cell. Technically, I still have 5 numbers left rather than 4. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, so now that we've kind of exhausted our weak areas, we can't see any more weak areas, we're going to go around the board again using 1s to 9s and see if we can solve anything else. If we can do any more pencil markings, so let's have a look. 1s, I'm going to speed up a little bit now because I've already spent 20 plus minutes so far, so try not to make this video too long. And so let's just quickly scan 3s, 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 4s. Have a feeling today's medium Sudoku is actually on the difficult side of the spectrum, so maybe it's a good thing that I'm using that, but it may end up kind of developing into quite a difficult puzzle, basically, so I may have to use more advanced techniques. 6s, 6, nothing on 6s, 7s, 7s. Yeah, I have a feeling I might have to use some advanced techniques. So 8s, 8s, 8s are in there. So, no, 9s. Okay. So, I've gone around the board again, and I can't find any numbers at all. And so that's a little bit worrying. So what we want to do now is, let's see, I'm just having a look around and see if I can do anything. What I like to do is kind of find a strategy that would give us something, and rather than just blindly trying different things out. So what I'm looking at the moment, I will talk about actually. So what I'm doing now is I'm looking at the pairs. There's a really interesting technique whereby, well, I know the 3, 4, 5s are in this column, resolved in this column, so I'm not going to look at that. But what I'm looking at is horizontally, can I place a 4 or a 5 in any of these other cells? So for instance, 4 and 5s, well, they can't go in this cell. So, but this could be a 4 or 5. This can't be a 4, but it can be a 5. So that's not useful at all. So 2s and 3s, well, 2s and 3s can't go in any of these 3 cells. But 3 can't go there. 2's can't go here. So again, that's not useful. And I'm just trying to use these pairs to find something interesting. So this can't be 1 or 8, but actually I've got an 8 over there anyway. So that technique didn't lead me anywhere. So now I've gone through the weak areas, What I want to do next is look at the week numbers. And week numbers are basically on the grid, any numbers that have the fewest occurrences, basically. So ones, we've only got 2 occurrences of. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sixes, we've only got 2 of. So 1s and 6 are weak. 7s are weak as well. So 1, 6, and 7 are the weakest numbers on the board because they all only have 2 occurrences. 5s were weak early on, but we've got 3 of them now. Same with the... Oh, actually 9. We opened with 3 9s. So, what was it again? 1, 6, and 7. Okay. So what I'm looking for now are any sounds that overlaps with 1, 6, and 7. Like this one, I can see the 1, the 6, and 7. And what I'm hoping to do is using this, I'll be able to find a naked single. Don't get too excited. It's just Sudoku terminology, but I haven't got one here. So this cell is quite barren. It doesn't see many numbers. It's missing a 2, 3, and 9. So that's not useful for us at all. So let's see. Let's stay on this 6. Nope, nothing in that direction. What about this 6? So actually, yeah, I've got 1, 6, and 7 in this row as well. So, no, I'm not optimistic I'm going to get anything out of this, because this is now missing a 2 and 3. Not 2 and 3. Missing a 3. Oh, hold on a sec. 1, 4. Yeah, it's missing a 5. So 3 and 5. 3, 5, 6, 9, 8. Oh, okay. That is useful, actually. So this cell, by looking at the 1, 6, and 7, I didn't find a naked single, but I found a naked pair of 3s and 5s. So if I look at this cell, oh no, I lied. What am I talking about? I can't see a 2 either, so this is 2, 3, and 5. I lied, I'm sorry. Ignore what I just said, and I'm going to carry on. 6. This 6, what about... Oh, this is also seeing 1, 6, and 7 because I've got a pointed pair of 1s over there. So, I can see 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So, brilliant. So, this cell sees a pointed pair of 1s, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So, there's only one number that this can be. It can only be a 3. Because I can see 1, I can see 2, I can't see a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And that's how we get a naked single, because basically, imagine we've got all the possible candidates, and we gradually rule out all the candidates and strip them away. I can strip away the 1 because of the pointed pair of 1s, or the fact that I've got 1 pinned in those 2 cells. I've got 2, in fact, 1, the whole point of doing this is focusing on where the 1, 6, and 7 overlap is 1, 6, and 7 are ruled out. So now I can see a 2, I can see a 4, 5, and 9 within the cage. And on the column, I can see an 8. So now it's naked with just a 3 there. So the reason I focus on the weak numbers is because the weak numbers are where we're going to have the most... If we're pencil marking all the weak numbers, we will have weak numbers all over the board all the time, like in most places. So they have the lowest probability of being kind of like a naked single. So to quickly rule them out, we basically focus on any cells that oversees all 3 of the numbers, and that's the quickest way of potentially seeing a naked single, basically. So that 3 has the effect of ruling out a 3 over there, creating a 3 down here, up here. It also rules out a 3 candidate over there, so forces a 3 over there, because with Snyder notations, if you erase one of the pencil markings, the other must be true, except for instances like this where I've got a triple going on. So the only cage that I haven't pencil marked in the 3s are here, and they're in these 2 positions because of that 3 and these 2 3s. So all the 3s are now pencil marked in. So does that 3 do anything else for us? Well, it's created a new weak area. So these are now, these three cells are 1s, 4s, and 1, 4, and 7. So any snooker fans will probably find some useful meaning from that. But I can't see anything interesting going on because this cell, whilst it sees a 1, it doesn't see a 4 or 7. And this cell can't see 1, 4, or 7. And this one can see a 4, but not a 1 or 7. So it's not super useful. But in this case, I've got a triple left. I've only got the 7s left, so I might as well pencil mark them in. So my phone just buzzed. So I'm going to have a quick look to see if I have any messages. Nope, nothing urgent. So what else can we do with these frees that we've placed? Have we got more weak areas that we can look at? We haven't. So I think what we're going to do now is we're just going to look around the grid again, since we placed some additional frees. So the board again has changed. So let's have a look around and see if we can do any more pencil markings in. So ones are locked in these two cells. Oh no, hold on, I lied. I thought there was a 1 over here, but there isn't. 1, 1, 1, 1. So 1s are locked in these two cells because of the pointed pair of 1s and that one ruling out these 3 cells. So now this 1 and this pointed pair of 1s along with that one locks another pair of 1s down here. So I do have some new pencil markings, which is good. What about 2s? 2s. Nothing useful happening over there. Nope. 3s are all pencil marked in, so let's look at 4s. So 4, now this 4 and that 4 rules out those cells, so I have a pair of 4s now. So, anything else? No, there isn't. So 5s, anything with the 5s. 5, 5, 5. Nothing on 5s. What about 6s? Nothing on 6s yet. 7s. 7s are still quite weak. Well, I guess 1, 7, and 6 are all still weak. So it may be worth still looking at if we can develop anything with them. There may be more naked singles going on. What about 8? Has that changed? 8. Okay, I've got a pair of 8s over here because of that 8 and that 8. So by placing that 3, I've unlocked a pair of 8s over here. And that's really useful because these two 8s and that 8 locks an 8 over here. And this 8 unlocks an 8 down here. And that's going to override the pencil marking 9, which means the only other candidate of 9 within the cage has to be correct. So let's stay with this 8 for a second. Doesn't do anything else actually. What about that 8? No, it doesn't. So let's move on to the 9, because this 9 may do something for us. For instance, it rules out a pencil marking 9 over here, forcing a 9 in this cell, which forces the 3 in this cell. So let's have a look at this 9 now to see if it does anything else. It doesn't. The 9s are still locked in those cells, so that's not useful for us. Let's rewind and look at this 3. So I tend to say this a lot about rewinding, because basically this 9 developed a 3, developed a 9, and I rewind by going back to the 3 and back to the 9 and see if there are additional interactions going on with the rest of the board. So this 3 unlocks a 3 over here and nothing else because all the 3s are done in both the cages on the rows and the columns basically, or vertically or horizontally. So that's all I can do with the 3. So let's rewind back to the 9, and now this 9 forms a relationship with this 9, locking another pair of 9s up here. So that's semi-useful, but not super useful. Okay, so I think that's all I can do with those. Have I got any updates on this triple? Because we've placed a few more numbers now. We've placed an 8. No, that's not useful. So the remaining numbers are 1, 6, and 7. So yeah, we still can't do anything yet. Okay, but basically this has turned into a pair, and it's not useful for us in any sense of the word. The 147s are starting to get pencil marked in now, but still not useful for us. This is still 4 or 7. This can still be a 7. So now, just to keep things interesting, I like to look at the cages, because now the cages are getting a little bit more restricted, as Simon from Cracking the Critic would say, and I would like to see if there are any special numbers jumping out at us. So if I look at 1s, nothing interesting. 2s, okay, so the 2s are locked in these 2 cells now because of that 2 and that 2. So that in turn locks a pair of 2s up there because I pointed a pair of 2s and that 2. So 3, 4, 5. Nothing interesting. Oh, we have a pair, so that's a weak area. So this is a 2 or a 5, but we can't place either of them because we don't know where the 5 or a 2 is on those columns. So, oh well. 6s. 6s are locked in these 3 cells. 7, 8, and 9. So nothing interesting going on. 1s are locked in these 2 cells because of this pointed pair of 1s. So, anything else going on? Nope, I don't think so. So, okay, what about this cage? 1, 2, 4. What about 7? Nothing happening with 7? 6s maybe? Nope. 4, we've already done. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So nothing interesting happening at all. Usually I like to look at these kind of cages. Often you find something developing, but not in this instance. We've developed a 1 from this 1. But basically, if any number sees into that column or that row, it immediately pins a pair, a pointed pair. So that's why they're usually interesting, but I can't see anything else, so let's move on. And so I've expanded a little bit from just weak areas, but I was just looking at this column quickly, and I can see in terms of pencil markings, we've got 1, 2, 7, and 8 pencil marked in, and providing 1, 2, 7, and 8 down here, that means the pencil markings are correct. And I was quickly scanning the rows, and I saw that 2, 7, and 8 are in this cell. So that means, since I'm looking for 1, 2, 7, and 8 in this column, if this cell can't be a 2, 7, or an 8, then it has to be a 1. So that's a quick little tip for you to how I use the pencil markings to quickly find a naked single in these cells. So that 1 unlocks another 1 over here. This one also now, working with that pointed pair, locks a pair of 1s up here, because this cell is already seen by a 1. So now I've got 2, 7, and 8 in these 3 cells, but no development really. So, okay, but I do have another triple here that seemed to have been there for a while. So this is 7, 6, and 9. 6, 7, and 9. So I see a 6 and 7 there. So that has to therefore be a 9, because I'm looking for a 6, 7, and 9 in these 3 cells, and one of them can see a 6 and a 7. So if that's a 9, can that 9 do anything else for us? It locks a pair of 9s over here, because of the 2 9s over there, and this 9. So now I've got a 1, 9 pair. That means in this column, I've only got 2 numbers left, and they are 6 and... what are they? 6 and 5. So I see a 5 over there, so that has to be a 6. Alternatively, one of these 2 cells, these are 6 and 7, and I can see a 7 there. So either way, either looking at the row or the column, I could have deduced that that's a 6. And if that's a 6, then on the row, that's a 7, and on the column, there has to be a 5. So let's look at a 5 first. The 5 sees into this, so it unlocks the 4, 5 pair. So now the latest 5 along with that 5 locks another 5 here. So I'm just going to follow the chain. These 2 5s locks a 5 over there. And now these 2 5s in tandem with these 2 5s locks another 5 over there. So I've just erased an 8, so the only remaining 8 has to be correct. And that just erased a 2 So that 2 has to be correct. And that leaves me with just one cell left in this cage, and it has to be a 7. And this 7 comes down here, erasing the 7s from there, forcing a 7 in this cell. So now the 7 looks horizontally, creates a pointer pair of 7s, and that's the end of the road because we've got triple 7 over there. So let's rewind back. I can't remember which of these numbers it was, so let's look at the 8 first. Well, the 8 in this cage, there's only one place for the 8. Oops, wrong number. And one place for the 1. So let's focus on these instead. So let's look at the 1 first. The 1 is unlocked over here. And I think... Oh no, I thought I've done all the 1s, but I haven't yet. So, that's the 1. But if I go back to the 8, the 8 also unlocks an 8 down here. So, and this 8... Oh, that's all the 8's done, so that's good. So that's 1 and 8 resolved, but I've created another 2 weak areas in these 2 rows, so something's got to give. So, for example, these are 4s and 7s. Oh no, I can't see 4 7s. So what about here? These are 7s and 6. And oh, again, I can't see those. So nothing to do there. So let's go back up. I looked at the 8 before. What about the 2s? Can the 2 do anything? Yes, it can. Unlocks a 2 over there. And we don't have any new unlocks by the look of it. But if I stay with the 2, I'll notice that that 2 and that 2 locks a 2 over there. So whilst I've exhausted what I can do with this single 2, I kind of noticed that the 2s are becoming quite weak now. So I thought I'll look in the other cages as well to see if I can complete all the 2s. And I should be able to. Yes, that 2 completes the 2 over there and unlocks a 4 as well. So let's look at this 4. So this 4 and that 4 locks a pair of 4s up here. And along with that 4, it locks a 4 in here because of this 4. So that unlocks a 1. That also unlocks a 1 up here. So I think all the 1s should be done now because that is now a 1. And that's now a 9. So all the 1s are done. So what about the 9s? Well, this 9 sees into that 9, unlocking it. And all the 9s are done as well. So we're not getting many pencil markings left now. And in fact, this one is the only candidate on this row. So it has to be the 7. So therefore, that's not a 7. Anything else I can do with 7s? Well, that 7 rules out the 7 over here. So 4 and 7s are done over here. That 4 rules out that 4. So the 4s are done over here as well. So all the pencil markings are gone now. So I think if I just pick a random cell, like this cell, or on the column, I've only got a 6 remaining. So let's put that in. And now on this row, there's only a 7 left. And in this cage, I've only got a 6 left. So, well, there are no more rows or columns to look at with this 6. So let's pick a random other one. So here, this has to be a 6. And let's pick this one. So this one on the column, oh, it's also a 6. So 6 is actually all locked down now. So the only cells left are this. This has to be a 7, and that has to be a 4. And that solves today's medium New York Times Sudoku. Sorry it took so long, but I just kind of thought I've not done kind of like a full explanation for a medium puzzle for a while. And I think if you are struggling with medium, then probably worth me doing kind of like grander explanations. So I hope that's been useful. I hope you learned something if you're just starting out, and I hope I can help you on this journey to become a better Sudoku player. Please leave a like and subscribe if you do find today's video useful. Otherwise, I shall see you tomorrow. Bye.